What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're ready to have a group hug. It's our second live show of the day for Thursday, August the 28th, 2025. I can promise that I will always remember today. I know we all will. I was on my way to pick up my son from school. I'm flying solo tonight as far as parenting. My wife has something going on, so super stressful day for all this to kind of happen. We're here because the Dallas Cowboys are the dumbest people in the world and have agreed of their own volition to trade Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers in exchange for Kenny Clark and 2 first-round draft picks. And that's it. And, I don't have any fancy graphics or anything. We're just going to talk right now. And, then it'll be dinner time for my son and I'll warm up some chicken nuggets or something. This is so dumb. I mean, this is the top of dumb mountain. This is king of dumb. The Dallas Cowboys are king of the dumb village. They stand alone in a pantheon of dumbness that is separate from all the dumbness that anybody has ever had, not just in the village, not just in surrounding villages, but in the entire ecosystem and solar system of dumb villages. The Dallas Cowboys on Thursday traded away one of the very best football players in the world. As stupid as that already is, they got basically nothing in return. Let's be fair, but they got very little in return relative to who we know Micah Parsons to be. And the reason for this is because they did this, like the Dak Prescott deal a year ago, in the most inefficient manner possible. You can be mad. I'm with you that the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons, but even if you wanted them to do this, we've been saying for a while now that whether it was a trade, whether it was a deal, whether it was whatever it ultimately wound up being, the Dallas Cowboys accomplished it in the most, do not let anyone not tell you the truth on this. They accomplished this in the most inefficient manner possible. It is malpractice of the highest order. I would never not be a fan of the team, and I don't say that in a judgmental way to somebody who wants to do whatever, but we are quite literally at a point where I'm not that I would judge you anyway, but like everything feels fair now. That like today was a dark day. There have been several dark days, some of the darkest days in Dallas Cowboys franchise history in just the last 19, 20 months. All right. From the moment that, of course, the Green Bay Packers destroyed this team, blew them to smithereens in the wild card round back in 2023. From that moment, this team has been throwing up on themselves. From that moment, this team looked at you and me and said, you guys love us. You guys want us to succeed. You guys want to give us your time and love and energy. F you. All right. Middle fingers all the way, because we're going to do everything we can to stir the pot, to make it dysfunctional, to make it toxic, and to ruin anything and everything that you love. If you think you like this team, we're going to make it so hard for you to stick around. We are truly going to test your loyalty. And after we do it, we're going to have the gall to equate it to the Herschel Walker trade. Some of you have noted that the Cowboys have scheduled a press conference for this afternoon, or this evening, I suppose, on Monday. And I'm certain that they're going to be talking about this and explain it and cope. And I mean, nothing can make this better. Nothing. These types of shows are y'all's. I am nothing but a mirror to bounce your thoughts off of. Ira, I think it's Ira. Excuse me, Ira says, RJ, is there any impact in your thoughts about a hold-in player all around camp leaking plays and strategies to a now new team? Ira, I think this is a fair question. This is quite literally, just to answer the question, among the least of my concerns. I mean, I think the Packers will probably beat the Cowboys. I don't think it will be because Micah knows the super secret plays or anything like that. Those are just my 2 cents. In the Flats, good to see you, says the worst part is mapping out the next few years. By the time that the roster is built back up, Dak will be on the decline. I'm a Dak guy, but having him on his contract makes no sense now. I completely agree with this. I'm a Dak Prescott believer. I said last year, I've told you many times that the Cowboys handled that situation poorly. Shocker, but they handled it poorly because they had to make a decision. By signing Dak on the day the season began, they went about that in the most inefficient manner possible. There had to be a point of no return. And if you were going to trade Micah, okay, fine. I disagree with it, but you should have traded him for a lot of reasons in March of this year or March of last year. Or in March of last year, you should have had this long, hard discussion with yourself. You should have said, we don't think this team, as good as it is, can do anything serious. We're not going to sign Dak Prescott. We're maybe going to think about extending CeeDee Lamb. We're going to go ahead and trade away Micah Parsons. But again, you've done all these things in, like, you know, when we have the charts of people, the athletic testing, and we have the, like, you know, different elements of how athletic they are in different directions. You did Dak in the most inefficient manner possible. You did Micah in the most inefficient manner possible. So now you're in these two different directions, making each inefficient one difficult relative to the other. This is so stupid. I agree with this. If you had not signed Dak Prescott, if you were on the hunt, if you truly were in the Arch Manning sweepstakes or anything like that, then fine. This helps you in that regard. But to that point, Dak Prescott is someone who is here now, and you can miss me, you can talk about, you can make your jokes about how he can't win the Super Bowl, whatever. If we can have an adult conversation, we understand that Dak Prescott helps the Cowboys more than anybody else right now relative to pragmatic and practical options. And so trading Micah Parsons away dramatically hinders this goal. I agree with this completely, that the short-term and long-term future of this team is under incredible question right now, because I said this all of last year, and I took it back this offseason, and we all should have known better. The Cowboys operated in 2024 without a singular North Star. That's what this is. Your North Star isn't competing right now. Your North Star isn't the Dak Prescott window. Your North Star isn't Micah Parsons and him being your Michael Irvin or whatever window. Your North Star isn't even Brian Schottenheimer. Dude, Brian Schottenheimer is already in this incredibly tumultuous situation, this incredibly difficult proposition that he's trying to navigate that is impossible already, and you just cut out his legs from underneath him. You just took away Brian Schottenheimer's best player the week before the season began and set yourself up for the entire world to dunk on you and joke on you and meme you to death. It's absurd how cancerous this front office and this leadership is to their own organization. Let's see here. Nick B says, how many playoff games did we win with Parsons? Nick, you don't have to do this. And by the way, your profile picture features Micah Parsons for the ultimate level of irony. Ron the Don says, realistically, do we think this has any effect on future free agents or rookies? I don't know how I couldn't. I mean, I think that sometimes we make a mountain out of that molehill, right? I think sometimes we say, like, oh, nobody's going to want to sign here now, but and money changes a lot of things, right? Like, if you're a would-be free agent, then great. But I mean, how do you not, you know, how do you not look at this and feel like it's a sideshow? How do you not look at this and feel like this team is in no way serious? This team is not doing anything to help itself. I mean, I don't know how you can't. If it were up to me, and I don't think we're at a. Obviously, playing for the Cowboys provides some sort of benefit, but I mean, the most popular player in the world plays in Kansas City, Missouri, right? And his teammate is engaged to the most famous woman in the world. So, like, you don't have to play for the Dallas Cowboys and America's team and all this stuff to experience life and luxury in the NFL. It's not 1993 anymore, and that seems to be something that only the front office doesn't know or doesn't want to come to terms with. Rico Steele says, RJ, I want to know, why are they trading him to a rival? There was a comment from Mike Tannenbaum on Twitter. Let's see here. I'm going to read it. By the way, the Packers just put out a Micah Parsons celebratory thing. Let me put the Mike Tannenbaum tweet up on your screen, because I think that this summarizes well this situation. And to answer this question, I see you agrees with the super chat. Thank you very much. And all right, here's Mike Tannenbaum's tweet. So Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager. I've interviewed him before here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, tweeting this out right now, noting that the Packers gave the Cowboys Kenny Clark. And by the way, let's all be cool to Kenny Clark. I'm not a Mavericks fan. I'm a Spurs fan, so I really enjoyed that. But we don't have to, you know, Anthony Davis, as KT Fun Tweets put it. KT's a good guy. Kenny Clark. This isn't Kenny Clark's fault. But Mike Tannenbaum noting about this, if Dallas had made the decision in March, like we've been saying, to trade Micah Parsons, the compensation would have been significantly higher because more teams would have had the time, cap space to offer more to Dallas. It's virtually unheard of to have a 26-year-old pass rusher in the prime of his career available in a trade. Now, I think this is important to put up here in some important context. There are a lot of you, all right? There are so many people who were just saying over and over again, and on some level you were correct, I don't mean to make fun, but saying that the Cowboys had leverage against Micah because they could have franchise tagged him in 26 and 27. Cool. That's great. Maybe the Cowboys had leverage against Micah, but the Cowboys just set on fire all of their leverage against would-be teams that were negotiating with them for ultimately Micah Parsons' services, the ones that the Packers want. How did they do that? By not trading Micah Parsons in March of this year or last year. The Cowboys put any would-be team that was going to acquire Micah, it wound up being Green Bay, obviously, at an enormous disadvantage. Green Bay was able to tell the Cowboys, look, yeah, we're not going to give you all this stuff because we're going to get Micah, and we immediately have to give him $47 million per year. He hasn't been able to be in our building all of the entire offseason. We think he's really good, and we think he's going to help us, but if we were having this conversation in March, we totally would have paid you more, but because you waited, we are not going to do that. And that's why the offer was what it was, and the Cowboys had to take what they did. So yes, the Cowboys may or may not, probably, in a vacuum, had some leverage against Micah Parsons, but they completely destroyed their leverage against any team, which wound up being the Packers again, that would wind up trading for Micah, which is why, again, this is also dumb. You want to trade Micah, fine, but do something in a legitimate way. Do something born out of foresight. Do something with a plan in place. The way this came together, the way this all unfolded, screams that it was a petty move, screams that it was a matter of, fine, Micah, you don't want to play here, you don't want to do this, you want to be your own way, then fine, we'll just trade you to Green Bay. This, is not the exact same thing, thank God, but it feels very similar to the Amari Cooper trade in that regard. Just let's move you on, get out of here. We'll put you in some place we don't feel like is cool or whatever, and good luck, enjoy. But this was not done well. I wrote an article about this. It's already out at bloggingtheboys.com. It's one thing to trade Micah Parsons. We can square that. We can logic that out if it makes some sense. But the Cowboys did this in the most inefficient manner possible. That has to be the lesson. That has to be the takeaway. I would ask, in fact, I would implore you to tell me the last time the Cowboys did anything with any level of foresight, let alone something of this magnitude. They are constantly behind the eight ball. They are constantly on the back foot. They are constantly playing catch up. And I don't think it's because they're dumb or incompetent or they don't know what they're doing. I think it's because this is just how they operate, and they don't really care because they don't have any consequences. Thank you, Grizz, for the super chat. Says, love the content, RJ. Keep up the great work. As an Eagles fan, we love Jerry. That should be all the sign. Cowboys need to make a change. P.S. Still praying for the return of the mixtape. Right now, I really don't want to do that. Robert says, set yourself free, RJ. I became a lapsed Cowboys fan years ago, and I'm so much better for it. Focus on your Astros. Hey, beating the Rockies today. It's a tough time. I'm also pissed off that this happened. Like, I still have a lot to do. I'm in grad school this year, and I have a lot of work to do in that. The Cowboys just delayed all of it for me, so it's a tough scene to be me. Let's see here. Master Sugar says, yeah, go 6-10 with Mike as the highest paid defensive player, and you will see angry. And with NIL, defensive end may be a new running back position of importance. With all due respect, Master Sugar, this is completely and totally silly. Like, that's insane. And the Cowboys have never gone 6-10 with Micah. So let's, I suppose, you could argue they went 7-10 last year, but that has quite literally never happened. Darth Vibe Coder says, I'm glad the Cowboys pulled the trigger. Getting 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark means we didn't get stuck in a massive deal for a high-risk position. Again, if you want to trade him, that's fine. But doing it this way is very silly. That's why, go watch the live show I did on Thursday afternoon. I did a hit with my guy Zach Gelb on Thursday as well. And I said, you know what, at this time, what makes the most sense is to trade him in the offseason. Trading him right now, of all the options that existed when we all woke up on Thursday morning, the options were, you can rank them however you want, but the options were Micah Parsons plays out the season on an extension that the Cowboys got done with him. Obviously, it didn't happen. The next option was the Cowboys have Micah play his 5th year out and trade him in the offseason. That's the one that made the most sense if there truly was this divide. The next option was some back and forth drama between the Cowboys and Micah, him claiming the back injury, blah, blah, blah. If you've come this far with that, I don't know why you would be opposed to that at this point in time. The worst option was to trade Micah now, because you don't get the draft compensation or anything to utilize this year, and he gets to go help the Packers now, and you don't benefit from him. Like, you get zero benefit if you're the Cowboys, and all you did was make this circus surround your team from literally the day this offseason started until now, and you accomplished nothing. And all of the draft picks that you're going to get from the Packers, Micah gets to be an impact on, right? Micah gets to help the Packers and theoretically worsen the draft position. So, yeah, it isn't. This was the worst option, was to trade Micah right now at this moment, right before the season began, a week before it happened. Again, doing it in the most inefficient manner possible, the Dallas Cowboys way. Fret Hold Bates says, Jerry has consistently terrible timing. Ira says, so ironic on the heels of the Netflix show with Jerry Rice commenting on Charles Haley. Rico says, also that Tom Pelissero tweeted about this being similar to Herschel Walker trade as a joke. I am not in the business of calling out NFL insiders and saying, I know a lot of people like to say that they're just regurgitating what agents tell them and stuff like that. But in case anyone did not see, Tom Pelissero did, draw a parallel, is the kindest way to say it, between this and the Herschel Walker trade. Do not be that person. I think Tom Pelissero is awesome. That is insanely dumb. This is not the Herschel Walker trade. This is pettiness and arrogance and small people doing small things. This is in no way that. Let's put this tweet up on your screen. Peter Schrager of ESPN sharing this right now. I'm reading it for the first time, but I'm seeing it pop off a little bit. Here it is. Schrager's tweet on the screen. Let's zoom in. Were the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl this year? Did they win big with Micah Parsons? Jerry is rolling the dice because he didn't want to pay Micah because he can. Go ask other general managers if they take 2 first-rounders, Clark, and $47 million for a guy. You'd be surprised how many say yes. I'm not going to, go after Peter Schrager either. That's my son on the monitor. He's having fun while I'm doing this. So everything's okay, I promise. But I think the idea that the Cowboys won this trade, if you're trying to stretch it that way, I don't know if that's exactly what Peter's doing, by the way. Old Greg says, go Pack, go. Hey, old Greg, like, if you think that you hate this team, we hate them way more than you do, old Greg. So, I mean, cool, enjoy, but like, you're not dunking on us. We get in line to dunk on them. Here's the other thing. If you want to moan and groan about Micah making $47 million per year and how he wasn't worth that and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay, you can say that, but you're not being genuine to what happened here. Micah first became eligible for a contract extension in March of last year. This was before the TJ Watt deal, before the Myles Garrett deal. Myles Garrett was the one who broke the $40 million seal from an annual average value perspective. If the Cowboys, as we've said many, many, many times, had any level of foresight back in March of 2024, they would have sat Micah down. They would have offered to make him the highest paid pass rusher in the NFL, which at that time certainly would have been $40 million per year. And this idea of $47 million per year wouldn't even be in the conversation because you'd be offering him well above market rate at that point in time. But the Cowboys couldn't do that because they were chasing Dak Prescott and chasing CeeDee Lamb, which is why they had to chase Micah Parsons all of this offseason, into training camp, into the preseason, right up to the heels of the regular season beginning. So you can completely miss me with throwing out the numbers and the $47 million annually, because it did not have to be this way. The Cowboys let it get this way. And if you are someone who perpetuates that idea, you are taking the bait that they want. $47 million annually did not have to be the price tag if the Dallas Cowboys did this the way a forward-thinking franchise would or should have done it. YRN says, fly Eagles fly, we want to know. YRN, the only thing I'm going to say here is, if you lose to this team next Thursday, we are going to be relentless, dude. That's all I'm saying. Do you have any idea how much pent-up frustration we have here, YRN? If you lose to the Cowboys, you better watch out. I mean, we are not going to hold back. We have crawled through some sludge, and we are looking for the first opportunity to flex even the tiniest bit. So you better, hope the Eagles take care of business. I know you think they will, and I know you don't want to admit it, but Dak Prescott has Philadelphia's number, so that might make it interesting. Master Sugar says, RJ, the big player they trade up for, the cornerback, somebody splashy moves. When is the last time we had a roster? This isn't the 12-4 team. That's fine. But then again, like, I appreciate looking for answers, Master Sugar, but there's nothing, you can't draw a line between everything the Cowboys have done and say, oh, they're like, boom, I got it, I'm a circle. This is clearly what they're doing. No, that doesn't exist. They're just operating off of the moment. And in this moment, they decided, you know what, we want to move on from Micah. Fine. There's not some long-term plan. There's not some big picture down the road. There's not something they're building towards. There is more than enough proof to show and demonstrate that this is not the case. This is simply a bunch of people with all the power who act willy-nilly and decide today to do one thing and tomorrow to do another. And if they contradict themselves, cool. Nobody cares what we think because, they're the ones in charge. Let's see here. Old Greg says coping is the only remedy at this. Oh, hell yeah. We're the kings of cope here, old Greg. Pablo says making an average team a poor team. Let's see here. Mr. Stat says Kenny Clark will help the run defense. I agree with that. I mean, that's besides the point. Let's see here. Spotrack, Rick Ursulini says, tweeted, Cowboys freed up $19 million of 2025 cap space and now hold $42 million, the second most in the NFL. I don't know what your slant is here, Rick. You're a great friend, so I'm not saying this negatively. Getting an extension done at any point would have freed up salary cap space. So this idea that like this was like this, and I don't know if this is your point, so I'm not attacking Rick here, but like getting an extension done in March would have freed up salary cap space. Getting an extension done in March of last year would have freed up salary cap space because of Micah Parsons' fifth-year option. We've said this millions and millions and millions and millions of times. So you do not, and again, not talking in a pointed way at Rick here, but you do not have to be like, well, this clearly makes sense because this is the way they freed up salary cap space. No, they could have done this. They could have done this long ago if they had just not been the most power hungry people in the world. Alex says Jerry Jones has made this season more embarrassing since then 1989. There, I said it. That's a bit of a stretch. Like I'm really mad, but I'm not going to go that far. So something I'll add, and there's a lot of people, I'm seeing this on Twitter a lot right now. Like, you can kiss any idea that George Pickens is signing a long-term deal here goodbye. Like, I mean, any David Mulligata, client for the foreseeable future is in no way signing a long-term deal with the Cowboys. So cool. You got 2 first-round picks. You got Kenny Clark. That's great. You just kind of burned that 3rd-round pick. And again, I was against the George Pickens trade. I tell you that all the time because I believe in being honest to what I said and being held accountable. But I've obviously come around. But I said even then, even 5 minutes after it happened, and I had told you that I was against it, I said, okay, great, you traded for him. You got to get this extension done right now. You got to be proactive. You got to be forward-thinking. You got to take care of it before it becomes an issue. And that was before all this drama with David Mulligata. So if the Cowboys had just taken care of that then, we wouldn't have to be. Are the Cowboys going to be able to get George Pickens done or whatever? No, because they would have taken care of it. But because they don't, now they're going to drag this on out too. And remember, I'm going to say this right now. I hope I don't have to come back and clip this in April of 2026. Remember that the Cowboys did not pay Micah Parsons. Remember when we're having discussions about the negotiations between the team and Tyler Smith and Deron Bland and George Pickens and Brandon Aubrey. Remember that they told us that they were freeing up salary cap space. Remember when they weren't active in free agency over the last few years, how they said, hey, we got to get ready to pay Micah Parsons. That didn't exactly age well. Remember when they are not doing anything in the future, that they told us that the reason they traded away Micah Parsons was so that they could do the things that they are not going to be doing. Remember that now, because I do not want to have to come back and clip this then. Lawrence King says, I'm not taking any bait, but I just don't mind it. I wasn't expecting a Super Bowl caliber year, and anyone who isn't paying attention for the past 3 decades. I suppose I get this. I'm not calling you a defeatist, Lawrence. I'm sure you're a very, strong and powerful person in your own, right. So I don't mean to say that. I do think this is a defeatist attitude, and I'm not faulting you for that at all. I think it's completely fair to have a defeatist attitude. I think it's completely fair to be like, yeah, I mean, this is my entertainment. This is my escape. I've also got my fantasy team, whatever. Like, I get that is my point. I hope that I meant to be respectful. So I hope it came across that way. Let's see here. Ira says pattern of ineptitude in the front office. Yeah, I mean, Master says, RJ, you can't have 3 of the 10 highest paid players with the rest of the roster. Why? I mean, like, why? Why not? They could have kept all 3 of them. They could have kept Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. They even could have kept Micah if they had done the deal that Green Bay did. But they specifically could have kept all 3 of them at much lower annual average values if they had gotten these things done, each of them at the earliest possible time. If they had taken care of Dak and CeeDee in 2023, if they had taken care of Micah in 2024, they could already have even also taken care of Tyler Smith and Deron Bland and George Pickens and Brandon Aubrey and whoever else you want to offer. So this idea that they could not have done anything is you having been brainwashed by the stuff that they're feeding you. They could have absolutely done it. They still could have done it, even at the $47 million per year mark that they did. Did you not read just now that the Cowboys created $19 million in salary cap space? They could have absolutely, unequivocally, 1,000,000% done this. This idea is a perpetual lie. All right. Tommy says, call out Jerry Jones, please. This is the problem. Let's see here. Kevin Wolf had a comment, says, I wish that stadium would be empty this season. That's seriously the only way things will change. Ain't going to happen, Kevin. I'm sorry. The deal says, maybe let's see how this plays out. Can't grade the trade until at least 4 years from now. Currently shocked, but let's breathe and see what happens. I'm all for applying a level of patience and benefit of the doubt, but I mean, like, has anyone burned it more than them? And you're right. Like, maybe in 4 years, I mean, maybe trading Luka Doncic will have been wise too, right? Like, oh, we don't know the unknown. I'm not mocking you, I promise, but it is okay to say that it is a galactic failure right now. And maybe it improves and is, only like a moderate failure in the future. Right now, today, no questions, no bones about it. It is a galactic failure from the Dallas Cowboys, especially when you consider the totality of it all. Weather_OJ says, we say they could have done this sooner, but considering Micah's agent, do we know that this actually could have happened sooner? This comes up all the time. How do you think other agents? I'm legitimately asking the question. How do you think other agents get their players to sign early with teams? Do you think that the Cowboys just have the like terrible luck of drawing the only agents who feel like waiting is in their best interest and in their client's best interest? Do you think the poor Cowboys just keep catching the mean old agents after the mean old agents? No, the only way you get dudes to sign early has nothing to do with whether or whoever their agent is. It has to do with, are you making it worth their time? Are you making surrendering the remaining years on their rookie contract fair and worthy? And to do that, you have to pay up front, which is what the Cowboys don't want to do. They still want to implement and apply this tax of playing for the Cowboys, that it makes it more worth it, or whatever the case may be. If the Cowboys, and I'm speaking hypothetically because I'm not going to pretend to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I would imagine that if the Cowboys had approached Micah Parsons in March of 2024, which at that point would have been 13 months before Myles Garrett got $40 million per year, I would imagine that Micah Parsons would have taken $40 million per year. Because my question then is, why did Myles Garrett take $40 million per year? Why did TJ Watt take his deal? Why did those two dudes take that when their agents knew that Micah Parsons was lurking? Is Myles Garrett sitting and saying, my agent's so dumb, man, I should have waited because Micah just got $47 million per year? No, Myles Garrett is saying to himself, you know what? I took the deal that was, fair market rate, maybe the highest paid at the time. And now it's Micah's turn. That's the way this whole thing goes. The Cowboys are not these victims here. Let's keep going here. Fret Hold says, future draft picks do nothing for this team. Dak only has so much high-level play left in him. Where's the urgency to build something around a franchise quarterback while he's still good? There is no urgency, Fret Hold, because there's another new dude coming to, bear the burden of this team. Right now it's Dak Prescott, and it's his turn. Someday it will be somebody else. Namir, thank you for the super chat, says Micah gets traded because you mismanaged your cap the last 3 to 4 years. Villainize Micah and blame everyone but yourself. Late to the show, but 2 first should have been the starting point. So said, I completely agree with this. Thank you for the super chat again, Namir. This is, to act like this is some victory is hollow to me. It is not living in reality. You're not tethered to reality. This is so low. It's unbelievable that the Cowboys couldn't even get like another second, or it should have been multiple firsts, multiple seconds, and a player. And again, it may have been that if you had made this trade in March. But I would ask this question, and I'm not in the press conference that's going to be having, or that they're going to be having soon, or may have had in the past, depending on when you watch this. But okay, then if you think it's in the team's best interest, Cowboys, to trade Micah Parsons, you obviously feel that way on some level because you did it, then why didn't you do it in March? That's my question. If you think it's in the best interest of this football team to trade him, then why didn't you do it in March? And the answer, right, because let's be fair, would be, well, we were trying to get a deal done. We thought we could. Okay, then just bend on the deal. Bend on the deal, because you've already compromised the ability to do this in a functional way. So at this point, you kind of have to cut your losses, and you can't just, take the compensation now, because it's not the same thing. And again, this team is just chasing its own tail and telling us like, oh man, I can't believe the tail keeps following me. No, dude, you're not doing this in a logical manner. Karam says, is this a fleece? I don't know if it's a fleece, but it's like a fluh. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a fluh. So it's tough. Let's see here. SoCal says Micah is a greedy fool. RJ, look, Micah could have certainly handled himself differently in some of these things. I agree with some people that it was not a good look to be on the trainer's table and whatever. Micah won. Micah got the deal, and Micah's free from this circus. I think to call him a greedy fool, like, do you know who the other side of this is? What there's no nobility in how the Cowboys have acted here. Again, I'm not above saying that Micah could have done things differently, but the pattern of behavior here, all evidence to this point points to the front office for being the ones who are the greedy fools. Let's see here. Joe says this might be the worst trade in NFL history. Lauren says Green Bay is minimal in marketing. It freezes every year. There's multiple people who own that team because it's basically owned by the people, not a single owner. This was an FU to Micah and David. Now, my friend, coworker, Justice Mosqueda, who is the me at our Packer side at SB Nation, Acme Packing Company, he wrote about this on Thursday morning. And peek behind the curtain, I might still, but I was going to chat with Justice on Friday morning about his thoughts, and his whole premise was that the Cowboys were considering Green Bay for the reason Lawrence just outlined, because it was regarded, and Gil Brandt once called it this, a lot of people call it this, the Siberia of the NFL, essentially banishing you to a place, like Lawrence said, with no marketability. It's super cold. There isn't, and I mean, and I thought Justice did a great job trying to say this in the article. No disrespect to the people of Wisconsin, the people of the area of Green Bay, but and I've never lived in Dallas, to be fair, too. So, but there just isn't as theoretical stuff to do, however you want to call that. And so this is I completely agree with this. This is a matter of, this offer's fine. We just think this will be the place that Micah likes the least. There's zero doubt in my mind, because there had to be a better offer. And if you believe everything that's been reported, or you take it with a grain of salt, or take it at full face value, whichever way you want to do it, it was reported on Thursday afternoon, like an hour before the trade happened, that the Cowboys were listening to offers and that they had multiple offers. So I mean, why did you trade him now? Why all of a sudden? Your picks aren't even until next year. I mean, there was no reason to do this right now. This does scream, this is a bit of a conspiracy theory in my mind. I can't prove this, but this does suggest that the Cowboys said, dude, he's going to hate living there. That's the one. That's the winner. They'll give us 2 first-round picks. Cool. But that's the winner, because it will make Micah upset. Alex says, people standing for the man who has run this legendary franchise into the ground are bonkers. People just want to root for their team, Alex. I mean, I get it. People just want to root for their team. Tommy says, I'm here for you to shred Jerry and tell Cowboys fans to stop believing this front office knows anything and make them pay. That's the thing. How do they pay? This team is they're in such a, do you know how sweet of a gig they have? You know what I mean? Because right now, to the point, there's so many people saying Micah's greedy, Dak sucks, this is on Dak, and in a week it'll be Schottenheimer sucks, Dak sucks more. George Pickens, the trade wasn't good. CeeDee Lamb, can't believe we paid him all this money. The Cowboys have a Rolodex of people who will fall on the sword, or they will push on the sword before they ultimately go. They'll sit up in their owner's box. They'll cash their checks. They'll laugh at all of us. They'll do their media appearances on 105.3 The Fan or on the local news or whatever it is, and they'll talk about how roster construction is a 24/7, 365 business, and how they're out to win world championships and blah, 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 when they'll do things like this and not be able to justify them in any kind of way. Jay Zoe says, Micah should have been signed the day after Devontae Smith re-signed with the Eagles. I agree with that. CeeDee Lamb should have been signed then too. Dak Prescott. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Let's see here. SoCal says, come on, RJ. Agents think they can get more out of the Cowboys. Prove this. SoCal, prove this. Why would Myles Garrett's agent not wait? Is Myles Garrett's agent dumb? That's my question. Is Myles Garrett's agent dumb for not waiting? Because again, if I was Myles Garrett, I'd be saying, dude, I mean, Micah just got $47 million. I should have held in. I should have done what Micah did. I'm going to fire you right now because I got $7 million less per year. I mean, let's be real here. We can be logical, anyway. Michael says, I'm moving to be an Arizona Cardinals fan after the dumb trade. I'm a Sun Devil, so I'm cool with the Cardinals in that way. But let's see here. Let's keep going. Lauren says, because Micah wasn't requesting a trade, not actually participating in training camp and acting like his back hurt going into week 1 in March. Zach says, as an Eagles fan, I understand the Cowboys here. They are already paying CD and a few others big money. They're not a Super Bowl team. Get some picks and maybe package them for whatever next year. I mean, I don't think that you can give them any benefit of the doubt. And again, they're not going to do the things that would make sense here. Fine. You want to craft some way this makes sense and the way they should do it. Great. And I will come here and I will eat my words. If they are aggressive and they utilize that and they move up and down, I bet you they won't even move. I bet you they'll use those Packers picks. They won't move one time. They will totally sit there and pick with what the Packers have and where their pick ultimately is. They will in no way think about moving because that's just not their style. David says Micah gets to play in the playoffs this year at least. So a lot of there's Dak's fault stuff. Karam says this is all on Jerry. I think it's fair to say it's like 5% on Micah and his agent, but it is mostly on the Cowboys totally. Let's see here. Johnny Boy says at some point this domino is going to have to fall. The incompetence of this front office is an exponential weight on this team. I think this is a great point. If you are a Cowboys fan who is upset about the Micah trade, I think the hope is that this is the Trojan horse. That's the only hope you have. And I said this a few weeks ago, that if Micah had to be traded, if that had to be something that happened, that the only way I could square that was if it led to change, was if it led to change for whatever reason, whether that was the front office being that embarrassed or whatever. But if it leads to change, I'm willing for all of us to make this collective sacrifice, right? I wish Micah well. I hope he and the Packers have success, blah, 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 blah. But if this leads to change, if this wakes them up, I recognize how naive that sounds, but if it does, it will have been worth it. But if it doesn't, then it's like the worst thing of all time, because you traded away one of the best players in the NFL. You didn't even learn the lesson, and you're just going to continue to be the same way. That would obviously really suck. But I mean, the only way this is worth it isn't even the first round picks hitting or Kenny being awesome or anything like that. The only way this is worth it is if the Cowboys have had an awakening, have had a self-reflective moment and said to themselves, all right, we traded Micah, but we really have to reevaluate how we do this. If that happened, then fine, sign me up. But I really doubt it. And it's really difficult to believe that that was the case. What it seems to me is like the Cowboys said, let's be petty. Let's get him out of here. Tell him to kick rocks, and we'll keep living life the way we want to live. But those are just my 2 cents. Let's see here. TCB says, how can it lead to change? Jerry isn't going to fire himself. My hope, and it is a hope, would be that it leads to change in the sense of, man, we can't do negotiations like this anymore, right? That there is some sort of awakening and saying, like, this process was wrong and we were petty about it in the end, but let's avoid getting into this situation in the future. Let's try to be different. That would be my answer as to how it could change. I agree that that is an unlikely thing. But man, I mean, I don't know. I'm curious. Let's put this up on screen. What the odds are actually. So I'm sharing my screen because, you know, people are gonna have a field day with this in different ways. Micah, in case you're curious, anybody watch Succession? No spoiler. Well, I guess this is a massive spoiler, but when the stock is dropping in the final season, and Roman, and they're all like huddled around the phone, and they're like, "What's that?" And Roman says, "That's dead," right? Like this is the impact of Micah Parsons, if you want to call it that. The Cowboys were 6.5-point underdogs and have been for a long time. It's kind of moved and bounced a little bit for their week 1 game against Philadelphia. That's Micah Parsons right there, that 1 point. And so some of you are like, a point? Sure, give me 2 first-round picks, baby. Fine. But that's the impact. I mean, my point is, like, if Dak Prescott won in the game, this would jump like 5 points. But and some of that's he's the quarterback. I hope that makes sense. But that's it. And if we go to the Cowboys, if we go to win totals, it had been 6.5. I'm sorry, 7.5, 8.5 for some time. Here we go. Cowboys under. Oh, here we go. Show more. So over 7.5 for the Cowboys, plus 115. Dude, take it right now. Even without Micah, I would say still take that right now. Over 8.5 plus 180. What that means for those of you who don't do this, and I don't mean to make it about gambling if you don't care, whatever, but you bet $100, you win $180 if that happens. So you profit $180. So they're saying that's a little bit unlikely. As you can see, the under 8.5 wins is minus 220. That means you got to bet 220 to win $100. So that 8.5 number is kind of where odds makers seem to feel like the Cowboys are at right now, which I would take the over on. As you know, as mad as I am and as much as I have to say about this, and as silly as I think they are, see, Matthew says this team isn't winning more than 5 games. They're totally winning more than 5 games. Andy says we are the new Ain't Saints. Edge says trading him to the Packers of all teams just makes it hurt even more. Yeah, I do think that that's getting our feelings a little bit, but I agree, to be clear. The King says y'all really wanted to pay an average player elite money, a player that, okay, like, let's be, the King, if you think, like, if you want to say that trading Micah Parsons was a good thing, okay, I'll hear you out. But like, the moment you call him an average player is the moment you lose credibility in my book. Oh, all right. It's dinner time for my son. I'm gonna go make some chicken nuggets, and I'm probably gonna eat like 50 of them, like, just, you know, eat my feelings type thing. I hate a lot of things. It's a very, 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 very tough day. Johnny Boy says Jerry just wants to prove he can pull off a trade like the Herschel trade. Get full credit for this. This was all about Jerry, not Dak, not CD, not Micah. Jerry equals Al Davis. I mean, it's hard to disagree with anything right now. And I ultimately hope the Cowboys win, and I know we all do. They just made it very hard on themselves. All right. I think I earned some ice cream tonight. I got a lot to do, but there's always stuff happening around here. Daily videos, live shows, all sorts of things here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. My name is RJ Ochoa, in case you're new around here. If you haven't yet, would appreciate it if you like the video, subscribe. I said this last year, but we're a lot more intentional. I'm a lot more intentional about this year, what we're doing. The goal is to hit 30,000 subscribers. That's our first goal, and I'm sharing that with you because I want to be held accountable. I'm working that hard to hit 30,000 subscribers here, and I'm on social, and you can see all sorts of stuff. I'm posting all the time, writing my articles, obviously, and sharing them. X, Instagram, Threads, RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. You can find me most places. Just search for RJ Ochoa. We will get through this together, all right? The front office doesn't deserve us, but you, me, we deserve each other. All right. We're all here together. We're all here to survive, to hold hands and hug one another and get through this in the name of what we care about, which they may not care about. They clearly don't care about in the same way. So as long as we have each other, I don't mean to get all Disney on you, but we'll be okay. All right. I do this, I'm so blessed. I'm inordinately blessed to do what I do for a living, but I do it because I have people like you on the internet as my internet family. So wish me luck with the nuggets and the ice cream and my homework for grad school, which I wanted to do earlier today, but the Cowboys ruined. So yeah, but be back on Friday with some more stuff. I guess go Cowboys. I guess so. Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you next time.